Hello everyone and welcome back to the Wrestling Association of the Mid-South, and boy has it been a while. We're coming off the heels of a historic event, the first ever edition of the Glory Gauntlet, and the first ever Glory Gauntlet match, which saw the historic reign of Junior Heavyweight Champion, or former Junior Heavyweight Champion, Emilio Suarez come to an end after Joel Cartwright became champion for the second time. Friedrich Herzog still the heavyweight champion, and it's been long enough that I think a little bit of a recap is justified, just to remind everyone where we're at, what we're working towards, and what is next. Chasing SPW, the number one company here in 1930, September 6th, SPW has achieved a size of small, and they have got their sights set on becoming a medium-sized company. All they need is to gain 10 more popularity points in their home region of the Southeast, and on that journey they are bound to satisfy the other popularity needs for that other region. So they will be medium as soon as they can reach 59 popularity in the Southeast. Viva La Lucha, the number 2 company in the world, also has achieved small size, and they are not as close to achieving medium size like SPW is. Viva La Lucha has got a popularity of 44 at home, and they need to gain 15 popularity, and then they need to pretty much double their popularity in any of the other regions. So they've got some work to do. But here we are, the Wrestling Association of the Mid-South, sitting at number 3, the third largest company in the world. We've got a popularity of 28 at home in the Mid-South. We are still looking to become small, and remember, SPW had a 5-year head start on us, and we are still running one show a month, and that's not going to change for a while. But I digress. There are 11 wrestling companies in the world as of 1930. We've seen a couple of them go bankrupt and fall, and 2 of those companies that are currently active are female exclusive in the Victory Wrestling Group and Joshi Japan Championship. So there's a lot of movement going on in the world of wrestling, but there's also a lot of things happening here in the WAM, and we're going to get into it. Albie Dewberry, one of the biggest names in the company and one of our best performers in the ring, has shattered his knee, and he's going to be out until June of 1931. So we've got about 9 months without one of the premier junior heavyweights in our company. Friedrich Herzog has seen his heavyweight championship reign continue, after not just facing his fears, but overcoming them as well after he defeated Blue Mage, representing the Dark Carnival. Joel Cartwright became the junior heavyweight champion for the second time, and you gotta imagine this reign is going to be better than his first after he had 0 successful defenses the first time he held this championship. And of course, the Dark Carnival, the newest stable that has basically taken over the company and has attracted a whole lot of attention from everyone in the company, despite what this feedback says about the Dark Carnival status in the company. And as we head into our next show, our locker room morale is pretty poor, so we are going to roll with the hardline stance, which always poses the risk of losing a superstar. Hopefully that doesn't happen. It does not, and we can move on and book our show with our mind at ease. But without further ado, it's time to get back into the amazing grappling spectacle, the 67th edition of this monthly show, and we've got a pre-show match that's going to get us started, a tag team championship bout as the Wellington Dynasty, Chuck and Angus, pick up a victory and defend their tag team championship successfully, though not without the help of Bronson Fraley. And you can see down in the notes that our crowd did not appreciate the assistance of said Bronson Fraley. However, we see some okay numbers from Randy Edson and RT Lincoln, 22 and 35 respectively, Angus at an 18 and Chuck Wellington at a 26. Overall, we get a segment rating of 23. However, our show is actually going to get going with a promo from Gabriella and Emilio Suarez. Gabriella opens up the show in the ring with her brother. Gabriella takes a moment to acknowledge the historic championship reign of her brother and scolds the WAM management for forcing him to defend his championship against such insurmountable odds. Remember, it was a 10-man gauntlet match, although she is not acknowledging the fact that Emilio Suarez did not even make it through one person. But that's not important here. She then turns her attention to Kuni Hashiguchi, who she thanks for allowing her to make history as Gabriella became the first victor in a women's match in the WAM. Her gratitude is short-lived, however, as she then states that she does not expect to see Kuni Hashiguchi around any longer, as she has proven she does not have what it takes to stick around. The siblings leave the ring shortly after, with Emilio looking furious and a wave of confidence flowing from Gabriella. Gabriella Suarez's performance stats are money, and we're going to continue to feature her on the microphone as much as possible, and she gets a segment rating of 45 here. Although we had her improvise and Emilio Suarez struggled when going off script a little bit, but Gabriella seemed to do pretty well. We've got our first match, a tag team contest featuring two opponents from the last show who are now teaming up in Neil Allman and Sebastian Morales, taking on Masked Hammer and Chris Brownfield. Chris Brownfield debuted in that Glory Gauntlet match, and he's getting another shot to get some more in-ring action here, although he didn't do a great job. We got Sebastian Morales and Neil Allman turning in nice performances at 43 and 49, Chris Brownfield down at 19, and Masked Hammer at 30. Not terrible for the losers, but of course Neil Allman and Sebastian Morales pick up the victory, but it was Sebastian Morales, the one who actually secures the victory in the pinfall. Now, it's been a while since we uploaded our last episode, but Neil Allman has been in a bit of a funk, and that funk continues here. Despite picking up the victory, Sebastian Morales is the one that really shines. So we get a segment rating of 38, not bad. What is bad though is our next match, as Princeton Willard, he debuts in a squash match, more or less, and he only gets an in-ring performance of 8. Poor guy. He's only contracted for one appearance, and this doesn't make me want to bring him back, I can tell you that much. Bronson Fraley takes care of business and dismantles the debuting Princeton Willard. We just get a segment rating of 16. We're going to move on. The next segment gets a little bit better, as we've got new junior heavyweight champion Joel Cartwright making his way to the ring, proudly displaying his newly regained championship. Joel Cartwright is approached by Riker Zucker, and the new champ has a few words for the crowd. Joel Cartwright would go on to express sympathy for Albie Dewberry, praising him as a competitor. Cartwright would then address his past title reign, which consisted of 0 successful defenses. Cartwright vows that this reign will be different, and proves so by kicking it off with an open challenge, which is quickly answered. And who's it answered by? Our boy, Christopher Hartwell. Christopher Hartwell comes out challenging for the Junior Heavyweight Championship, although he comes up short, and Joel Cartwright makes his first successful defense of his Junior Heavyweight Championship in a total of 90 days as being champion between his first reign and this reign now. So he went 90 days as being champion without making a successful defense. That is wild to me, but Joel Cartwright, the good in-ring competitor that he is, takes care of business with a submission. In-ring performance of 43, Christopher Hartwell at 27 didn't do a bad job. He was able to keep up a little bit, but overall we get a segment rating of 37, and we're moving on into our next segment, where Elijah Mays approaches the ring and Riker Zucker, and then Riker Zucker immediately tenses up in anticipation of taking some form of punishment, as he has consistently done so from Elijah Mays in the past. Elijah Mays would reassure the interviewer that he is not going to hurt him. However, he assures the crowd that he cannot say the same thing for Bronson Fraley, who sabotaged Elijah Mays' chance of winning the Glory Gauntlet last month, which, in turn, long story short, sabotaged his chance of reaching his ultimate goal of becoming heavyweight champion. But Elijah Mays continues to rant, citing he knows that Bronson Fraley and the Wellingtons have already left the premises this evening. However, Elijah Mays promised to deliver Bronson Fraley's just desserts, one way or another. Segment rating of 35, Elijah Mays is extremely popular, though he's not the greatest on the microphone. We see that here with just an average rating in this promo. Moving on to our main event, we get another match that the fans do not appreciate, but it's just what it takes for the story. We don't get the best ratings for this show, though. I can already see it. Friedrich Herzog, in-ring performance of 54, Woodrow Gunter, in-ring performance of 41, and Friedrich Herzog defending his heavyweight championship, although Woodrow Gunter is the one coming out victorious. Came out victorious via DQ, therefore Friedrich Herzog's championship ain't going nowhere. Turner Spittler, the well-known rival to Woodrow Gunter, comes out, disrupts the match, and sabotages Woodrow Gunter's opportunity We know that Woodrow Gunter picked up a one-on-one victory over Turner Spitler at the last event, and clearly Turner Spitler is not pleased with that, so we get a segment rating of 31 because of the DQ finish. The fans do not appreciate any kind of shenanigans going on at the end of the match. But we get a segment rating of 32 in our final segment of the show as Turner Spitler takes a moment to appreciate his handiwork after dismantling Woodrow Gunter. While Friedrich Herzog remains champion, he is furious with Spitler's involvement. Turner Spitler would not back down from the heavyweight champion, though a confrontation between the two was disrupted after Woodrow Gunter took aim for Spitler Turner after regaining his composure. The show would end in chaos, with tempers flaring between all men involved. So a three-way skirmish, more or less. Woodrow Gunter is not happy with Turner Spitler, Friedrich Herzog not happy with Turner Spitler, and of course Turner Spitler not happy with Woodrow Gunter. And of course, Herzog is the champion, so he's got the big target on his back. And it really was not the best show in general, but we're going to find out just what our ratings ended up being, but we get a segment rating at 32 here. And the show, overall rating, 36, not where we want it to be, but with the size of our company, it's still going to grow. It's still going to give us some growth, so, we'll take it as it comes. And we're going to compliment the two new faces in the main event scene, Woodrow Gunter and Turner Spitler. We made $1,322 from the show, and we are really starting to trend in the positive direction as far as our financials go, and we even see growth in the Mid-South from 28 to 29. So all in all, despite not the best rating, this show had some really positive yields. And there's a couple things I'm going to do with this save in this database right now. Friedrich Herzog and Emilio Suarez, they have been my primary road agents in every show that we have ran. You can see that as far as their psychology and experience, 83.35 for Suarez and 59.50 for Friedrich Herzog. We've also mixed in some Woodrow Gunter in there for our road agent, but there's something I'm going to do. We're going to go to the in-game editor, and I am going to change their available roles, and I'm going to add a road agent because it's something that they've been doing anyway. It's not that the game is preventing me from using them as a road agent, but now I can make them a road agent right off the bat, so I don't have to manually do it every single time. So if you feel like this is shisty or not honorable, let me know how angry you are in the comments, but otherwise, this is just going to save me a few clicks every single show and ultimately make my life a little bit easier. However, without much going on or anything needing to be addressed, we found ourselves at the next show, October's edition of the Amazing Grappling Spectacle, and we are ready to go with a pre-show match, and it gets a great rating as Hermenegildo Ramirez gets an awesome rating of 51, while Wayne Blankenship, who took the loss, gets a rating of 28, and we get a segment rating of 40 in the pre-show match. Hopefully this is a sign of things to come. Though it does not seem to be that way to get us started anyway. We've got Angus Wellington and Chuck Wellington once again defending their tag team championships, this time against August Washburn and Diego Bergen. It's been so long since we've had August Washburn on the show. He has gotten rusty, and that was not ideal, and that certainly did not help us for this rating here. Low rating for this one, but it is to be expected with these Dynasty boys and their low in-ring prowess. Though Diego Bergen up at 32, not the worst thing in the world, and I think this is one of the first times that I have seen somebody with a lower in-ring performance than Angus Wellington, so that is quite the shocker there. Although after the match, we would see however, following the victory from the Wellington dynasty, Bryant Hines is spotted at the curtain. Hines begins with a subtle laugh, though it grows more maniacal as it went on. He would make his way to the back before any kind of confrontation occurred, though the tag team champions and Bronson Fraley were clearly unsettled, and we've got the Dark Carnival poking their head out once again, and we will see just what develops between these groups. Now our next match, Neil Allman going head-to-head against Masked Hammer, and we get a nice performance from Neil Allman, 54, Masked Hammer 34. Segment rating just gets 39, however. And in quite the upset, Neil Allman would actually take the loss to Masked Hammer. And this is a monumental victory for Hammer because this is a former heavyweight champion in Neil Allman. And that losing streak, that singles competition losing streak, that funk that Neil Allman is in, it continues here. Although we do get a segment rating of 39, not the worst rating to get at this point in the card. Although I was hoping for a better rating here, as Neil Allman is beside himself after taking an unexpected loss. While he holds his composure, it's clear there is some serious tension between he and Sebastian Morales. So like we said, wishing we could get a better segment rating from this angle, but it is what it is. We're going to move on, and we get a segment rating of 35 as Elijah Mays comes in and squashes Chris Brownfield, quickly wrapping up the match in just over 6 minutes and forcing Brownfield to submit. Elijah Mays with a pretty low in-ring performance here actually. Chris Brownfield does much better, although it's not great. Still, 20 is not what we're looking for. It is considerably better than the 8 that he got at the last show. But Elijah Mays underperforms here a little bit, and we get a segment rating of 35. And then moving into the next segment, 39 from Joe Cartwright and Riker Zucker, as Joe Cartwright is back again to seek competition, and is laying down an open challenge once more to anybody on the roster who qualifies. It would not take long before it was answered, and it was answered by RT Lincoln. And we get a better match rating here, as we do hit 40 between these two. Joe Cartwright coming out of this one successfully defending his championship for the second time during this reign, after he forces RT Lincoln to submit. We wanted these boys to put on a show. Joe Cartwright had a nice in-ring performance at 43, RT Lincoln at 34, and hopefully we can continue this trend for the main event. However, the segment that followed that match down at a 29. Following Joe Cartwright's victory, he is interrupted by the Suarez siblings. Equipped with a microphone, Gabriella begins to rip into Joe Cartwright for failing to acknowledge Emilio's historical significance while praising Albie Dewberry for shattering his knee, referring to Joe Cartwright's promo last month. Gabriella demands she and her brother receive the praise and recognition they deserve, which includes and starts with the priority to challenge for the Junior Heavyweight Championship instead of these random roster members who hang out in the back. Joe Cartwright seemed amused with Gabriella's rant and assured her that he is welcome to any challenger, including her brother. So again, our promos are not delivering in the way that I thought they would, and especially in the way that I hoped. But we're going to continue to move on from this segment rating, which only got us a 29. Our main event gets us a decent rating at 42. You like to see the main event bring in the best match of the night. But we've got the Pride, Friedrich Herzog and Fritz Hattendorf, defeating Woodrow Gunter and Turner Spittler. And was it so much the Pride, or was it so much the inability to work together by Woodrow Gunter and Turner Spittler? And we would just see some poor communication between Gunter and Spittler, which would ultimately lead to their downfall, as Friedrich Herzog would pin Woodrow Gunter. Friedrich Herzog had a really good performance of 51 here, Fritz Hattendorf at 33, Turner Spittler at 35, and Woodrow Gunter at 39. So not bad work done here in the main event. We get a segment rating of 42 to lift up the show. And we really needed that one. And it would actually give us a show overall rating of 40, which, while still not what we're looking for, is at least better than, sub 40, 39, 38. We should not be there. I'm really hoping to be at that high 40s, maybe low 50s right now. But if this is where we're at, I'll take it. We're just going to try to lift up some of the guys that I know don't have the highest of morales in the locker room, and that is Kenny Wiles and Elijah Mays, continuing to make money with every show that we have. And the ticket sales are really starting to make a difference, and we are getting close to that range where we can start broadcasting, I think. This show did mark the final appearance for both Chris Brownfield and RT Lincoln. Chris Brownfield's an interesting one because he has phenomenal performance abilities, kind of mid elsewhere, but I think we're going to bring him back on. He's still in Ontario and we're still paying for his travel, but as we just saw, our finances are in a pretty good spot, so we're going to offer him a 1-year contract and see if he comes back to us. RT Lincoln, however, while he does have that sentimental value as he is my created character that I brought into the save and the database, we're going to leave him in CSW for now. He's got some pretty decent stats, but he just doesn't have anything to wow us, and to be totally honest, I just don't see where he fits in on the roster at this moment. So he's on our short list, and if we need him, we'll definitely be calling him. We've got a pretty nerve-wracking message here. Neil Allman injured. However, he just sustained a fractured cheekbone in CSW. I don't love the fact that we cannot get Neil Allman to be exclusive to us unless we just egregiously overpay for him. The fractured cheekbone isn't going to even keep him from performing, and I think it only lasts like a week to maybe 2 weeks. So we may not even be dealing with this by the time our next show comes around, but boy, when I saw that message, I was not pleased, let me just say that. And while we're not going to increase the frequency of our show, we are going to increase the duration of our show. We're going to change it from an hour to an hour and 30 minutes and just give us a little bit more time to get a little bit more of the roster involved every single month. We are going to be sticking with the monthly show and then that almost quarterly special show, as we've now got the Glory Gauntlet in the end of the summer, Frank Norris Memorial Show in May, and the Spectacle of Amazing Grapples, the biggest event for our company, is in March. And we're not too far off from that. We'll actually get into this event in the next episode, but that's not what we're worried about right now. What we are worried about is finalizing this contract with Chris Brownfield. He's accepted the 1-year offer. We're not exactly sure the exact extent of his usage, but I do want to get him involved because he's got some great performance stats. And honestly, I'm just going to make him a manager right now. We still don't have established faces and heels right now, so I'm thinking just kind of that rough around the edges kind of character, maybe a Turner Spittler, more on that heel side, the more aggressive side. But Turner Spittler might benefit from having a good mouthpiece alongside him. Our junior heavyweights are actually kind of decent on the mic, so I think we'll be alright there, and we will just roll with Turner Spittler receiving the managerial duties of Chris Brownfield. But Chris Brownfield is still going to get in the ring a little bit. We're not going to totally overlook him there, because he does have some decent primary and mentals, mostly just the primaries. It's comparatively not the worst thing in the world, and maybe that charisma bonus might just help him out to get him some decent performances in the ring. And we were correct earlier, Neil Allman has fully recovered from his injury before we even had an event. However, Kenny Lyles and Friedrich Herzog are both within 30 days of their contract coming to an end, and these are both a couple of gentlemen that we are going to offer another deal to. Friedrich Herzog, 2 years, $20 a show. That is just such a bargain. I actually just feel bad, so we're going to do 25 since he is a main event caliber character and member of our roster. And Kenny Lyles, of course, the best referee in the game, 96 refereeing ability. That is amazing. We of course are going to lock him up, and we'll just keep an ongoing handshake relationship with him. I don't see any reason why I would need to deviate from that right now if he just wants $20 a show. And we'll just have to see what the results of those contract offers are going to be after this show. But first, we're going to lay down a hardline stance with our roster and see if anyone walks out. I say it time and time again that I'm thankful for it, that nobody chose to walk out. We just get a slight boost to our backstage morale, and we know it needs it. However, it is time for the second to final event for the WAM in 1930. We are knocking right at the door of 1931. However, we've got a pre-show match to get us started. Black Bull going over on August Washburn. August Washburn still rusty, but Black Bull getting an okay performance of 31. We see a segment rating of 22 for this pre-show match. To get our show started, we've got Fumihiko Onoda back on a one-night deal to take a loss to Joe Cartwright in another open challenge for the Junior Heavyweight Championship, and Joe Cartwright, of course, coming away victorious. Nice performance, 43, Fumihiko Onoda at 29, and if we know that he is going to be there in that local worker spot, we may just be seeing Fumihiko Onoda a little bit more often in that enhancement talent role, but we'll continue to see what develops. Segment rating at 37 here. We then get a segment rating of 39 as Friedrich Herzog is called down to the ring for a word with Riker Zucker. Zucker would make the announcement that Herzog will be defending his championship against both Woodrow Gunter and Turner Spittler in a 3-man match this evening. Friedrich Herzog displayed no fear and would proclaim that while most men would shy away from the challenge, this stipulation poses no threat to the strongest man in the world. So just a little bit of confidence coming from our heavyweight champion Friedrich Herzog, and of course he's got his boys Oscar Kohler and Fritz Hattendorf alongside him. Our next match is not a great match, but it's got Angus Wellington, so that's not the biggest surprise. Segment rating of 26 here, but Diego Bergen goes over Angus Wellington in what is a little bit of a surprising victory considering who Angus Wellington has in his corner, but we're going to get into it here in just a moment. Diego Bergen 31, Angus Wellington at 18, but what really went down is during the match, lights are cut and familiar carnival music begins to play. While this moment is brief, the impact is felt when the lights returned as Chuck Wellington was nowhere to be found. This would spook Angus Wellington, and Diego Bergen would take advantage to secure the victory. Segment rating at 30 here. And we would see after the match, Gabriela Suarez grabbing the microphone, and she issues a simple message to Joe Cartwright. This is what a proper challenge looks like. And in our next match, we get a great segment rating of 50 from our junior heavyweights as we had a triple threat between Emilio Suarez, Hermenegildo Ramirez, and Christopher Hartwell. And Emilio Suarez would come out of this one victorious after submitting Christopher Hartwell. Emilio Suarez and Hermenegildo Ramirez really put this match on their backs. Emilio Suarez at 48, Hermenegildo Ramirez at an in-ring performance of 56, great work, and Christopher Hartwell 27, not bad, but clearly not at the level of Suarez and Ramirez. So this was a really strong rating and we really needed this. And to be honest, it's been a while since we've had this level of match. Moving into the next segment, Elijah Mays issues a statement and claims that Barnabas Beef Wellington has declared severe punishment and consequence are to come if Elijah Mays doesn't act professionally amongst the roster, specifically Bronson Fraley and the Wellington brothers. Elijah Mays mentions that he refuses to apologize for anything that he has done, but will abide by the owner's request. Elijah Mays makes an indirect statement to the roster that he will not be silenced, and in due time, he will make the impact he intends. Segment rating of 36, Elijah Mays getting a little bit better on the mic, but not really. To follow that, we get a decent match, segment rating of 39 between Sebastian Morales and Masked Hammer, as Sebastian Morales came out with a victory. And during this match, Neil Allman would have an indirect impact on this, and it seemed that it was going to cost Sebastian Morales the match. We know that Neil Allman has been having his troubles lately. He actually lost to Masked Hammer last month, but Sebastian Morales overcomes the odds and survives the obstacles, I suppose, and he comes out of this one on top with a good in-ring performance of 45, while Hammer down at 30. And after the match, Neil Allman couldn't believe the outcome. More so frustrated with his inability to perform lately, Neil Allman is struggling to keep his composure with Sebastian Morales. Allman apologizes and Morales offers advice, though Neil Allman quickly rejects the help and shoves Sebastian Morales back, though he would quickly leave the ring after. So some conflict between Neil Allman and Sebastian Morales. Neil Allman is obviously conflicted with himself, and that funk continues with Neil Allman, and we get a segment rating of 41 here. Moving into our main event, a big triple threat, and we get a good rating out of it. Friedrich Herzog with an in-ring performance of 63, Woodrow Gunter at 34, and Turner Spittler at 35. Friedrich Herzog comes out on top, clean in this one, and he makes defense number 9 for the WHAM Heavyweight Championship. And Woodrow Gunter and Turner Spittler, they had their sights set on the other. They gave it everything they had. They really threw it all out on the line here. However, they were just a little bit distracted, I would say, and Friedrich Herzog kept his eye on the prize, the goal, the heavyweight championship of the Wrestling Association of the Mid-South, and he will walk out here as champion in a big match with a good rating. And you could even see here that Chris Brownfield did some good work ringside, so you love to see it. We get a good overall rating of 46. This is more so where we should be at with each show if I'm being realistic, so I just got to make sure I'm delivering with each booking that we do. So we had a great triple threat between the junior heavyweights, another good triple threat between the heavyweights for the championship, and outside of the Wellingtons, no truly weak segments, so you love to see it. We got to continue to praise Elijah Mays to try to shift his morale positively. We made just under $1,300, and our popularity does grow from 29 to 30, and that's probably the best result we could hope for in this show. And I'm going to try to make a big move on Elijah Mays. He is angry, and as you can see here, he's furious from the booking of the Glory Gauntlet. He did not win the championship. He just really doesn't like losing at anything at all. It's been a little hard to handle, but we're going to offer him a $1,000 bonus. This is by far the biggest bonus I've given out yet, but we are profiting about $1,000, a little over $1,000 each month, so I think we'll be able to be all right, and we'll be able to withstand this. And he does go from angry to annoyed, and while that's not exactly what I was hoping for, it does prevent him from walking out of the company. I'm also feeling a little shisty right now, and I think I'm going to make a play for an SPW worker, Rahan Marlowe. He's a heavyweight, 6'1", 235 pounds. He reminds me of Sheamus a little bit, a Canadian Sheamus. But I'm going to send him an exclusive handshake offer. Of course, he is working for SPW, so it's got to be exclusive because he cannot work for myself and SPW at the same time. And if I'm going to offer him this kind of contract, I'll throw him $25 a show, and we'll see if this, we'll give him a $100 bonus. That's big. That's big for the time, and we're feeling like we're spending this month. But anyway, we're going to send the offer, and hopefully we'll get some good news back. And while this is not Rahan Marlowe, we do see Friedrich Herzog accepting his contract and Kenny Lyles as well. So we just wrap those boys up. And SPW have dropped out of negotiations to sign Rahan Marlowe. Really low effort to keep a guy that's been on the roster for quite some time. Honestly, he's got good popularity throughout every region in the United States, almost every region I should say, except for the West and the Islands. He's been with SPW for the last 10 years, and he's only been a tag team champion alongside Alexander Keith, so really low effort by SPW to keep this guy on the roster, and I think he's going to find life in the WAM to be rather peachy. And there it is, we have stolen another big name from SPW, and I am holding back more than I could because I feel like I could probably nab up Daniel Loisel whenever I wanted, but I'm not going to do that right now. Cody Willard has apparently walked out of SPW extremely upset from their low effort to keep Rahan Marlowe on the roster, clearly. And while Cody Willard actually has some really good stats, he has got a selfish personality, and that's not something I'm willing to take on at this time, but in the future we might see him. But I'm getting a little distracted here. And it must be known that SPW has taken their share of workers from me as well. So I'm not just abusing the system here. And Rahan Marlowe has officially left SPW and FNP, and we see that SPW sent a contract offer to Hermenegildo Ramirez. They also sent one to Woodrow Gunter, but I deleted it. And it seems it's not a big deal because I've got these guys locked up because they're on exclusive handshake deals. They also sent one to Bronson Fraley, but it's got me a little nervous for guys like Neil Allman, who refuses to sign an exclusive contract. I don't think he realizes what would happen if he decides to pick up SPW, because he's going to lose my contract if he signs with SPW. We also see that CWB has now entered into a financial warning, and they have been bailed out once before, so this does not look good for them. And this is Corey Edmonds, our former road agent, his company that he started. He's actually come around. This is the first time that I've seen that he'd be able. It's been a long time, and he's finally willing to negotiate with us again if things go sour at CWB. We know who to call, but things are not looking good for this company who's got Elijah Mays on their roster. Rocco Sims is a really good wrestler, though he's got a really poor wrestler. They've got a few other big names like Kelvin Gebhardt, a Wham original, Christopher Howell, Christopher Hartwell, Veronica Lutter, one of the best female wrestlers in the game, if not the best as of right now, and just a few other big names. But it looks like this company is going to see its final days. And then we see Diego Bergen's contract is coming to a close, and he has slid down the pecking order in the last year or so, but I don't think that justifies not signing him, so we're going to bring him on for another year-long contract, and we'll see where he's at after 12 months. But without further ado, it's time to get into the final event of 1930, the last show that we will cover in this episode, and before we dive into 1931. We start this off with a pre-show match between Turner Spittler and August Washburn. Turner Spittler just continuing to get those reps in. August Washburn still rusty, like 3 or 4 matches later, and we get a segment rating of 24 here. Another pre-show match, the Dark Carnival back in action. We don't want them getting rusty now, and we got them going up against Bryant Hatcher, Randy Edson, and the Great Matsuo. Black Bull and Blue Mage had nice performances at 40 for Black Bull and 44 for Blue Mage, 39 for Craig Bean, Randy Edson at 27, Brian Hatcher at 20, and the Great Matsuo at 21. Just a segment rating of 33 for this pre-show match. But to get the night going, we've got Rahan Marlowe making his debut here in the WAM, and he starts his tenure off on a good foot. Segment rating of 42, nice performance of 46. Diego Bergen did a nice job at a 36 performance, and Rahan Marlowe gets a great response to his gimmick. So all things are looking good for Rahan Marlowe. Then we got a segment rating of 32 in our next match as Woodrow Gunter picks up a convincing victory over Chris Brownfield. Chris Brownfield still trying to get his feet underneath him, get some experience in, but Woodrow Gunter just makes himself look good with a nice performance here. Moving on into the next match, we had Bryant Hines and Bronson Fraley in a real short match. Bronson Fraley dismantles Bryant Hines in less than 5 minutes, segment rating of 18 here. And we know that Bryant Hines is not a gifted performer, and we also know that the Dark Carnival has abducted Chuck Wellington, still nowhere to be found as of right now, but this match has a few developments afterwards as well. A beaten and battered Bryant Hines begins to collect himself following a dominant display shown from Bronson Fraley. While Bryant Hines took a beating, he once again begins a maniacal laugh, which irritates Fraley, who comes back to the ring to deal more damage, until the lights cut out again, and upon their return, Hines was gone. So, the Dark Carnival keeping their little shenanigans going, and Bronson Fraley continuing to get frustrated from them. Moving on to a tag team match, and I really thought we'd get a better rating from this, but you know, it is what it is. Elijah Mays and Joe Cartwright competing in tag team action against Wayne Blankenship and Christopher Hartwell. Elijah Mays and Joe Cartwright come out on top after Elijah Mays forces Hartwell to submit, but unfortunately, Elijah Mays and Joe Cartwright just do not click as a team. They do not have good chemistry, and thus we get a segment rating of 35. So if Elijah Mays is going to play by the rules of the owner, that will inevitably set him on the path towards the Junior Heavyweight Championship. Who's the champion? Joe Cartwright, of course. So we do see the Great Matsuo with some good work ringside. He is Elijah Mays' manager, adding some flair to the MMA fighter. But we got a segment with the Suarez siblings as they appear at the curtain, and Gabriella again with a microphone. While she apologizes for interrupting the victory celebration, she warns Cartwright not to become too attached to that championship belt, as Emilio will soon take it away from Cartwright for the second time, as we do remember that Emilio Suarez was the one to end Joe Cartwright's Junior Heavyweight Championship reign. But moving into our next match, the main event, we get a nice segment rating of 52 with a big 6-man tag team match. Big multi-man matches always work pretty well for us here in TEW 9, but Hermenegildo Ramirez with a phenomenal performance of 61, not to be outdone. However, Friedrich Herzog, the champion, not to be outdone, in-ring performance of 62. Fritz Hattendorf at 33 and Oscar Kohler at 25, while Sebastian Morales and Neil Allman are at 53 and 54 respectively. So really strong main event to boost up this show, and we really needed it, and the Pride just coming through with a big victory against some big names here on the roster, just producing some quality entertainment for the fans. However, to end the show, we've got a huge moment as Rahan Marlowe breaks through Herzog's protection, laying out the champion with a devastating blow. The Wham newcomer walks away from Hattendorf and Kohler, having made a huge statement on his first night with the new company. So Rahan Marlowe secures a victory in his first match, but then he also comes back, thwaps the champion, and sends a huge message to the rest of the roster that he's not going to wait for opportunities, he's going to create opportunities. And as we get a segment rating of 39 to end out our show, and our show gets an overall rating of 45. So good matches sprinkled out throughout the night, with a real stinker between Bronson Fraley and Bryant Hines that really probably did us no favors whatsoever. Moving on, we got to continue to praise Elijah Mays because he's still not feeling great. And I know that Turner Spiller is also annoyed, so we're going to tell him that he's awesome. Elijah Mays was happy with the speech, and I think that means we get a boost to his morale, and Turner Spiller was pleased. Financial report, we gained $1,500, and the ticket sales continue to rise. And with that being said, we have really laid the foundation for a big rendition of the Derby Derby. Derby number 6. My goodness, could you believe it? We've seen Bronson Fraley, Neil Allman, Sebastian Morales, and Friedrich Herzog emerge as victors and heavyweight champions of the WHAM through this Derby. Who is going to win edition number 6? Will it be Friedrich Herzog? Will he remain champion through for the second time? Because remember, he did not win the heavyweight championship at this last Derby. He was already champion going in it, so he's done it before. Sebastian Morales, Neil Allman, and Bronson Fraley, I can assure you they will all be included in that tournament, but that will all unfold in the next episode. So huge shout out to all the real ones subscribed on the huge shout out to everyone subscribed to the Real One tier on Patreon. You guys are awesome, and your support is greatly appreciated. It's great to get back into this series, and we're definitely going to be back again soon. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy.